Hello everyone, we're going to be talking about community ecology, and so we're looking at how different organisms interact together. And so that's exactly what a community is, how all the different organisms that live together in one place. So it's going to talk about all the interactions. So really we're going to answer, in what way do populations interact? First of all, I want to talk about a niche. And so a niche is the organism's ecological role, not just where it lives, the habitat, but its job. What does it do? The first thing we really need to talk about with this is competitive exclusion. And so in this example, you have two different species of barnacle. What the barnacles want, they want to live. Species 1 would love to live this whole area. Species 2 likes this area. Well, because species 2 outcompetes species 1, species 1 has to live up here, species 2 has to live down here. So competitive exclusion is no two similar species can occupy the same niche at the same time. Lions and tigers can't live together. One way to be able to live together is shown with these example of different types of anoles. And so they all live in different parts of the trees, so near the ground, up air. This one really doesn't even live in the tree much at all. And so they can all live in similar areas, but they found their different pieces where they fit best. This little ghost of competition past, they once competed, and they found where they needed to go. So we're going to be talking about different interactions. So symbiosis is just two organisms living in a long-term relationship. In freshman biology, we talked about this mostly with talking about mutualism and commensalism, but really even predation, parasitism are all animals living in a long-term relationship. So hopefully you remember a few of these from freshman biology. But we have competition, and this little negative means it's negative for both organisms. So they're competing for a limited resource. Again, the competitive exclusion. So we have Darwin's finches here. They all once were seed-eating ground finches, but depending on where they lived and who was best suited for their environment, some are eating insects, some seeds, some buds and fruit. We have predation, obviously positive for the one killing, negative for the one who's being eaten. Parasitism can happen on plants as well, but it's getting nourishment from another one. We also have herbivory, so herbivores that eat parts of plants. This deer is hurting the plant, that's why it has the negative, but the deer gets benefit from it. Mutualism, both species benefit. So we have our cattle egret, number Knox here, and the egret eats the bugs off, and so they get food. The ox doesn't have to have bugs on them. Also have fungi, commensalism. This is much debated if there's actually any organisms that are truly have commensalism, because one benefits, the other one's unaffected. So for example, we have this whale and barnacles. The barnacles are benefited because they have a place to be, and they say that the whale's unaffected. However, with me working with sea turtles, I might debate that. I know that the barnacles on sea turtles can eventually weigh them down, hurting them even more, especially if they're a sick sea turtle. And so we have all these different relationships. Commensalism, this yucca living on the tree, he's benefiting. Tree is supposedly not being hurt, so it's not actually maybe hurting him, but I can't think it's the best for him. Mutualism, clownfish and sea anemone, both benefiting. And if you're Nemo fans, you understand that part. Predation, the spider eating a moth. And that says competition down there. So if somebody else's eggs in there and fighting over space. and negative for both. Here's some ants in the setted. And so herbivory, we have some mutualism, predation, mutualism, pollination. The plants get pollinated, the bee gets food. Alright, so we're going to talk a little bit about predation. Really, when you think about it, it drives evolution. The predator always have adaptations. They're constantly trying to get better at locating and subduing their prey. The prey, however, have to get better at eluding and defending against the predators. So they have horns, speed, coloration for this one. Plants can put out spines, thorns, toxins to make sure that they don't get eaten. Peppers, that hot taste. So predation provides a strong selection pressure on both prey and predator. A little bit more with that. Here's some more things to get away from that predator. You might be able to hide, so you can avoid detection. Camouflage. And so here's this lizard. Warn predators. And so you may taste bad or have a toxin, and you have bright colors to warn them away. It's called aposematic coloration. Another way to get rid of is Batesian mimicry. So you're acting like one versus Malarian, and that was a monarch butterfly. It tastes bad. Some different defense mechanisms. Again, the camouflage. So cryptic coloration. Here's some examples of different animals that have some cryptic coloration. They're amazing. We have mimicry. So Batesian mimicry is when a harmless species mimics a harmful one. So in this example, we have the hawkmouth larva puffs up to look like a poisonous snake. So he's trying to look all big. Another example is the viceroy, who is actually edible, looks like the monarch. And so here shows this bird who actually ate it and didn't like this monarch butterfly. So he learned his lesson. We have the fly versus the bee. So can you tell the difference? Which one's a fly, which one's a bee? And you can't really see it. This is actually the fly. This is the bee. Again, the moth versus the bee. The moth is over on this side, the bee over on this side. Malarian mimicry, where two or more protected species look like each other. And so basically they're both dangerous. So we have the yellow jacket and the cuckoo bee. So it's kind of a group defense. And we have our school bus trying to have in there as well. Warning coloration. And so they seem to resemble each other. So common colors to warn against. And we have a lot of those yellows and reds. Beautiful coral snake. Orange, black, orange, yellow means don't eat me. So what kind of mimicry is this? When you have the coral snake, it's poisonous. King snake is not. And there's also milk snakes. This was one of the snakes that I own. And so that would be Batesian mimicry. So red on yellow, poison fellow. Red on black, safe from attack. Or I've heard it red on black, friendly jack. So we have all kinds of coevolution. These are those predator-prey relationships. So we have some viruses up here. We also have parasite-host. So it's like tube worm, peas, some more viruses in there. which are parasites, flowers, and pollinators. They can't really live with each other, or without each other, sorry. And there's always some long-term adjustments between species. Alright, talking more about the community, we have some different structures. We have species diversity, which is the amount of different species in that community. The composition is the dominant species and the most abundant ones. I also want to talk a little bit about keystone species, what they are, and changes over time, which is succession. So, first of all, species diversity. The more diverse you are, the more stable you are. And so in community 1, we have a little bit of all these different trees. Species 2, we have all the different trees, but we have mostly species A, which means they're not as stable. So usually you want more food resources, more habitats, and if the environment changes and these trees don't do well, this forest isn't going to last for very long. And so when we reduce that biodiversity, so we make our lawns and all these pretty golf courses, you're going to start getting some of these famines, because this, if it doesn't last, it's going to go away. And so also our corn crop, potato famine, this is what's happening when we're getting rid of all these older ones. Keystone species. So it's not always the top predator, but it can be. Just looking to see how much more. And so really, unfortunately, the only way to really tell what the keystone species is once you remove it, how many other organisms are affected. And so this is with type of starfish, everything's going pretty good. Without it, the mussels outcompeted their species, diversity decreased, and so is a keystone species. It's going to increase that diversity. A huge example around here is beavers. They make dams, they do all kinds of things for that community. Another example is a sea otter. And so with the sea otters, they're able to keep the, they're able to keep the sea urchins down. So impact of the killer whale kills the sea otters, sea urchins are on the rise, kelp goes down. So there's the beavers I was talking about. They're making beavers, we get ponds, which gives us new habitat, especially for fish. Another piece we want to talk about is ecological succession, which is just change. And so you can see change over time. You're starting to see plants over here. And it's transition in species composition over time. This takes a long time. And it's usually after some kind of disturbance, volcano, something happening. Primary succession doesn't happen much. Really, it has to be lifeless, no bacteria, nothing. So it can't even have soil, because soil is a bacteria. Really, the only time that this happens is during when glaciers melt, because nothing's living under there, or sometimes volcanoes. And so you don't have any of this, and this is what happens for primary succession. I will be continuing this on another video because I am out of time.